We worked with the same people in the same place, doing the same thing day after day, until either we got lucky enough to be able to retire or we died. It was this way for too long, but we could hide it until COVID came, and then we couldn't hide anymore. And then what happened? People started leaving their jobs in droves. We started looking for work that fulfilled us and allowed us to be better parents and partners. Those who did stay at their jobs started working more from home on their own schedule. Instead of battling traffic every morning and afternoon, we spent more time doing the things we love in the places where we love to do them. And people are moving and taking their jobs with them. Work is changing, but not always in the right direction or fast enough. So rather than being a victim of change, we're driving change in the workplace. This is the moment.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. We are in part 2 of the HR Disruptor Summit virtual experience, week 9. And my guest today, I'm so excited, Eric Holthausen. Erica, you are the queen of publication. You are public disruptor. So we are so excited to have you. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. And I am just going to say, I love that video.
Do you love the video? I'm so glad.
So good.
So good. We're going to put a shout out to our marketing director, Antonio Lavera. His creativity is awesome. So thank you so much I just thought it was perfect. It just describes everything the way work is today.
Yeah.
So my friend, I am so excited that you're here because every year at the summit, we always want to feature resources for solopreneurs, small to mid-sized businesses, job seekers. I just know when I was in ophthalmology, worked for the pharmaceutical company, I did speaking engagements at the trade shows, right, for the company I worked for. But what's interesting is now with LinkedIn and there's so many more opportunities. I mean, I got to be published in the trade journals of my industry, but more and more average people can, you can become seen in public, right? Notoriety of being the leader in your industry, right? And not have to go to be featured in your industry trade show, right? So if you would, Erica, share a little bit about your transition and how you ended up starting your publication and writing business.
Yeah. So that could be a very long story. So I'm going to cut through a bunch of things because as is true for so many of us, it's a bit of a twisty and turny story.
It's a journey.
Yeah. So I actually started my career as an attorney. So I was in securities litigation and worked for a firm in Boston.
Wow.
And left that because I became an attorney so that I could save the world, as you do. And that was not going to do what I thought it was going to do. And left. And it took me a while to figure out what is the right next step. So I ultimately ended up in marketing and fundraising for nonprofits, worked for a consulting firm, stumbled into writing articles for a magazine that was a local, they call them shelter pubs, so a home and garden magazine locally. And my first editor taught me everything about pitching publications, about how do you write for publications. She got me my first editing job. But I still didn't realize, to me, writing and editing was always something I did on the side. I was still either working for somebody else or had my own marketing company. And then finally, it was right before the pandemic that, because my timing is usually amazing like that, I left and decided to start a company again. And I was going to focus on content marketing and was working with a coach and talked about a project that I had loved years ago that was helping a consultant get published in an industry trade journal. So those have a tremendous amount of value. So when I talk about high visibility publications, those are included. And decided that was the thing I really, really wanted. And he was like, so do that. But it had never occurred to me that that was something that I could do, but it tapped all of the right notes. And it's something that I've always loved doing.
I love that. And isn't it So true. It's right there in front of us, but we're not
Usually.
objective. We're not objective, right? It's
Yeah.
so helpful to have somebody from the outside say, "Hey, why don't you do it?" Like,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get us to rack our brain about what we're emotionally connected with, right? Where's the high charging connection between what we've done before to what really still excites us,
Yeah.
right? It's like that just makes sense.
And so often there is, no matter how much your career seems like this, so often there's a thread, a common thread that
Yeah.
runs through everything. And once you can figure out what that thread is, like, I don't know, doors
No,
unlock
that's
and
it. That
suddenly it
it's
just
so
makes so much
true.
more sense.
It it's self mastery to get you to find that common thread, right? Just get
Mhm.
away from the hoopla, and that's where a lot of, especially job seekers, when anybody that's finding themselves getting into the same job over and over, and it's cyclical, right? And you're
Mhm.
like, why am I not happy? Dig down deep and just start writing out what are the common themes in each of your jobs, the
Yeah.
duties or the topics that really still stoke you up, right?
Yeah.
Um, you talked about, again, your feature about the trade journals. To me, it was just so easy. I'm like, I'm in the industry. I already have the pick up the phone and say, hey,
Yeah.
you know. So when we talk about um, like right now, what does that look like now in post COVID, in the arena of social media? It's like there's so much more opportunity to be known, or to become
Mhm.
a recognized expert, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much more opportunity. And it can often feel like we are inundated with information, and we are, but we are inundated with with useless information, with stuff that
Useless.
is that is not insightful, that is not helpful. So it makes it a whole lot easier if you want to stand out, digging deeper and going for something that is high quality and really helpful and really sort of targeted to the folks that you want to talk to immediately helps you rise above the cacophony and stand out above the crowd. And that's a big part of it. Is, yes, there are a lot more opportunities for people to be writing. You can start your own blog and start writing things. You can start your own podcast, your own video blog, whatever the heck those things are called. You can do all of
Yeah.
that, but to do it well, and you can either add to the noise or you can rise above the noise. So that's where that focus and attention to quality can really help you stand up. And then, given some of the things that I do, when you can be affiliated with an already established entity like Inc., Fast Company, Entrepreneur, that tells other people, oh, this person's really credible, because now you've been vetted. So it taps into an
Right.
existing audience, and it gives that additional credibility signal that says, oh, well, if Inc. thought that this person has a lot of value to add, I should take a closer look.
So that just seems, for most people, that just seems so far out of reach. And what I love, what you and I spoke about, tell us, you may not, it might be a big jump for you to feel confident enough to go pitch something, to Forbes or whatever. Can you walk us through, what does that process look like, as far as pitching to a Forbes, or even before that, how people can build up to that?
Yeah. So the first piece is recognizing why these opportunities even exist. Because 10 years ago, experts were probably not writing for Inc., Entrepreneur, Fast Company,
Right.
for these well-known publications. The big change has been, of course, in the online world. So when I started writing for magazines, it was all print, and all of the advertising was print advertising. The internet has changed all of that. Every single one of these publications, they are reliant on advertising revenue in order to be successful businesses. Online ad revenue is driven by traffic. Traffic is driven by search engine optimization.
Yeah.
SEO is driven by high quality original content. Suddenly, all of these publications, except for a very few that might be affiliated with a university, so they have other streams of income, but most of these publications now need much more content than they could possibly afford to pay their staff writers and freelance writers to create. So they have this huge gap that needs to be filled. Then you have experts who really know their thing, have valuable information to share, and would love being affiliated with these publications, with these big names. So now you have this win-win situation. So the door, it used to be a lot harder to get in, but these days, most of these publications need you and need your expertise and need your content as much as you want to be affiliated with them. So it can really be an exceptional partnership.
I love that. So, how do you, the biggest question is, how do you even go start knocking on their door?
Yeah. So before you knock on their door, you have to know which door to knock on. And that all comes back to figuring out, really thinking about like, what is your business reason for doing this? Why do you want to write for these publications in the first place? How do you want writing for publication to help you with your business? And the more you understand what your goals are, those goals become a filter to help you choose which publications are actually the best ones for you to go after. So, for example, one filter could be, all right, I want to write for these publications because I want to be able to interview other experts in my field. Well, if that's the case, you can't write for Entrepreneur because they don't allow you to quote other experts. But Inc. does. So the more you know why you want to do this, that helps you first filter those publications so you can choose the right one. And then it's going through those publications, knowing who your audience is. Who are you trying to speak to through your writing? Because every publication speaks to a slightly different audience. And then every publication has they have a different personality, a different way that they
Yes.
talk. You don't want to be affiliated. If you go to a publication's homepage and you read some of the headlines and it makes you roll your eyes, you probably don't want to be affiliated with them. So
Right.
finding the publication that's also a good match from a brand standpoint is really, really important to do.
So, when you think of, what's your business, you know, why, right?
Yeah.
Why you want to align with them. What really was interesting was when you said their personality, right? So, like when you're trying to find out, okay, well, entrepreneur, of course, is about entrepreneurs, right? But when you start to research different periodicals, is it just you just go and research articles to kind of see who they're targeting? Or how do you find out who they're targeting or who their market is?
Yeah. So one great way to start is talk to your clients. Who do they turn to for information? Are they all members of a particular association? Do they all read a particular trade journal? Are they, so this is going back to that idea that a high visibility publication does not necessarily mean an extremely well known business magazine. It can sometimes be. My first client wrote for EHS Today, an environmental health and safety journal. So that was a high visibility publication for
Yeah,
him because that's where his people were.
that's
So
right.
figuring out where your people are, if they're reading certain publications, if they're members of certain associations. If that's not really the case, it's also figuring out, okay, what are the publications that my people really respect and resonate with and appreciate? So that immediately narrows your list quite a bit. And then beyond that, it's really doing the research to see a lot of publications have guidelines, contributor guidelines. So you can actually Google the name of the publication, contributor guidelines, and sometimes those pop up. And that also gives you some more ideas about what it is that they're looking for, how long the articles are, how they want to be pitched and approached, whether they're looking for one-off articles or they're looking for you to pitch a column, an idea for ongoing writing. So it really helps you kind of figure that out. And then, of course, as your experience shows, Jan, if you have a connection with somebody because you've been a member of an association for a long time, give them a call, have a conversation, see how you can work together and you can add value to them and their members, and that adds value to you.
That's nice. I like that. Again, it's not just about you. You need to see how can you create a win-win. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people forget about that, right? It's yeah, it's great that you got a product or service or this knowledge that you want to pitch, right? You have to ask, what's the value to the organization, the readers
Yeah.
of that magazine? What value is your knowledge or wisdom going to bring to them? And
Yeah.
looking at, I think also types of I mean, you can Google it. You put in the name of the publication and the type of articles, right? You could say, okay, if I was writing for laser vision correction, I would
Mhm.
look up, Forbes or whatever and say LASIK or eye surgery, elective eye surgery, to see what comes up. So
Mhm.
you can see what types of articles that periodical has been publishing and
Yeah.
from what viewpoint, right? There's a lot of that back end research that is going to be helpful for people to do, that they can get an idea of what's the value,
Mhm.
right? For what value are the members or the readers
Yeah.
getting already, right?
And what are you going to provide that's a little
Yeah.
bit different? That's I love that you brought that up, Jan, because it's knowing what's already been written about
Mhm.
your area of expertise in the publication and finding those gaps so you can fill the gaps and say, okay, here's how I'm adding to the conversation that you are already having with your readers. This is what isn't being talked about that I can bring to the table. That is like catnip to an editor because suddenly it's like,
I love it.
yes, you're adding something new, because publications don't want the same thing rehashed 370 times. They want new insights, they want something that's a little bit deeper. They want you to be adding to the conversation so that they know that there is value for their readers to what you have to say.
I love when you said it's catnip, because it's so funny, because growing up, my mom always, this was a funny joke between everybody. Why do you have to be so different, right? Well, when I was helping ophthalmologists start their laser vision correction practice from zero, nothing, I always would go into their geographical area, go into their town, look at their competition,
Yeah.
right? Like, well, I just looked at what other eye doctors were doing that were doing LASIK or different types of elective eye surgery, and said, okay, well, they do this and this and this.
Hmm.
I'm just going to do something different. I'm going to have my client do something different,
Yeah.
because that's exactly, you can have the same topic and see, and again, see the patterns, right?
Hmm.
Where it comes back to looking at the patterns. What types of articles around that topic are those periodicals writing about?
Yeah.
And you kind of see in front of you what's the different angles for each of those, and go,
Yeah.
okay, what can I provide that's different, that's along the same lines, right? Same topic, but how can I put a new spin on this? And like you said, that's just more stuff that the
Yeah.
editor doesn't have to do. I mean, that's just like you're giving them free stuff, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how you need to look at it. What are you bringing to the table that's different or unique about what your voice is,
Right.
right?
Right. And some of that can be, I often encourage my clients to sort of look at it from, think about what are the things in your industry that just absolutely drive you bananas. um and
Yeah.
do a 10-minute free write about those, because sometimes it's that counterintuitive take that really adds a lot of interest, and it adds to the conversation, and it can be like, okay, well, everybody's saying X. I'm going to call malarkey on that, and we're going to go
Yeah.
with Y, and then show why, like, why is this wrong? So if there are folks in your industry who are very well known, are they missing something? Are they missing a nuance? Are they not going as deep as you would like them to go? Are your clients asking specific questions? When a client asks you a question, I guarantee you, if one person asks, lots more have the same
Yeah.
question on their mind. Answer those questions. Go deeper. Don't be afraid to disagree with somebody or to add some more nuance and more layers to what is already being said. So much of what is online these days is bone basic. I mean, we've all clicked
Isn't
on
it true?
something. Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
mean,
and
I've
so
even
don't
seen
do
like
that.
a recirculated information. Like I know for a fact, like when I open up my phone and you got Google, you look up Google. I'm like, I saw this exact same content and picture 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's how desperate. Like, really, we don't have enough people like creating new news here that we got to recirculate this stuff. The same, like that's really what blows my mind. Are you kidding me? The
Yeah.
same stuff. Like you can't even change the picture.
Yeah.
You
It,
know?
and on a similar note, those things that like have a great headline and you click on it and you're like, really, that's all you got? Like, that's 5 minutes of my
Yeah.
life that I'm never getting back. And
That's right.
truth be told, if I
Wow.
see who wrote that thing that made me feel like you just wasted my time, that's a black mark. Like, that is not somebody who, like, I have
Yeah.
now written you off as a hack as opposed to acknowledged you as an expert.
So I want to make a point of that. That's huge, right? Because we're talking about seconds,
Yeah.
seconds. And I don't even mean plural. I think that really took you a second when you saw that, the immediate emotion, right? From
Hmm.
seeing it physically to all of a sudden that response, reaction of the emotion of, really?
Yeah.
I look at the person's name, I'm done. Like all of 1 second, you have now discredited that
Yeah.
news source, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That news source or that individual, or,
Yes.
I do it with publications as well. There are like, I know a lot of people who love BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed makes me bananas. So, like, I would never want to be affiliated with them because
Yeah.
I can't even read their stuff because so much of it to me strikes me as clickbait. And that's the thing, is that as you are putting yourself out there and putting your ideas out there, which is absolutely critical if you are going to be recognized as an authoritative expert, you have to be careful and you have to do the work. We so often want a
Yeah.
quick fix. This is a long game.
Yep.
This is really being thoughtful about what you are writing, making sure that it's adding some nuance, that it's really going to be valuable to the people you are trying to reach. And the more you do that, a lot of folks who are out there and a lot of the stuff on the web is not doing that work. So that's how the cream rises to the top.
Yep.
So that's how that starts to happen.
You know, I love how you differentiated. When we talk about writing for a publication, it's not the same as putting it in a social post. I mean, to me, I would think there's more substance in that whole process of when you're writing that article, not only how many words, right, but the substance of it.
Mhm.
We're so used to writing posts on social that I don't think we're really getting the practice or the opportunity to understand the difference of writing content for social versus a publication. Would you
Though,
not agree?
though I would also say your social post should also be valuable for your audience. The challenge is that we are so often told, like, you have to do this, you have to do that.
Yeah,
Here's a formula, here's this other thing, like write a book in 30 days. Like, we're told that this should be fast, fast, fast. And so
right.
people think, oh my gosh, but I'm not a fast writer. Most good writers aren't. So there's a reason that people who are regularly writing books, it often takes them 6 months to a year to 18
Yeah,
months. They're not whipping these things out in 30 days. Good articles, you're not going to bang it out in an hour.
right.
It's just that's not the way it's going to happen. It's not just about getting the ink on the page. It's about all of the think that you have to do to formulate your idea, but then also to structure it. So I think a big challenge is that so much of the communication online, so much of what we hear is how to do this fast, how to do it quick, how
Yes.
to do like faster, better, boop, 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 boop.
Yep.
And, you know, you can't churn out high quality stuff every single day at lightning speed. Like every once in a while, you might
Yeah.
stumble into something. It's like, wow, that was really good. And it didn't take me that long. That is
Right.
not typical. And if you are really trying to build your reputation and build your authority and credibility, take the time, allow yourself that luxury, because the better it is, the longer it will serve you. There are articles that I wrote over a year ago that I am still sharing regularly with prospective clients when I'm in networking meetings, because they still hold up, because they are quality pieces that actually address somebody's question.
You know, I'm so glad you brought that up, because an article that I wrote in 2010, I think it was like last year, somehow was still connected to my LinkedIn.
Mm.
I was like, where where did that come from? Like, how did that even like? But I thought, I was like, wow, this is still in circulation.
Yeah.
Like this article that I did in 2010, it's still in circulation. And when I read it, I said, it's still valid today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for, I'll pat myself on the back that it was credible. It was good writing. And so,
Yeah, yeah, and it means that you can still use it
yeah,
today. So if you're in a conversation with somebody and it reflects back to that article, you can be like, "Hey," you can even update. There is no harm in updating old articles and saying, "Oh, yeah, I updated this because some of my thinking has changed, or I understand it a little bit more deeply, or there's no new research on this." Yeah, you can update it and
I love
keep
it.
using them.
I love it. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Because it's interesting. I mean, when one last thing, when we talk about um, reach and frequency, I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that we touch base, and so tell me a little bit more, if you could share a little bit about that reach and frequency.
Yeah, so reach and frequency are advertising terms, but they also apply to what you're doing as you are building your reputation and getting out there. So reach is total number of eyeballs that could possibly be on your thing. Frequency is how often those eyeballs, the same eyeballs, will see your thing. And you need to find that balance. You know, a lot of folks go with a spray and pray approach and they're all about reach. They want as many
Yeah,
eyeballs as possible. But if my eyeballs are on something that you put out there once, nothing is going to happen.
right,
If I see your stuff, your work multiple times, again and again, and it tickles my gray matter again and again, that's what's going to get me to start paying attention to you. In the marketing and advertising world, the numbers have changed a lot, but it's like at least 7 times, some people say 13, that people have to see something from you, see you and your name and what you do before they start paying any attention.
right,
So balancing those two things, it's not just about as seen in and having as many logos as humanly possible. It's
right.
about here's where I am. Maybe it's a few other places, but really being intentional about how often you want people to see what you're doing.
I love that. Thank you for, really, that's the icing on the cake, because a lot of people, um, they get they get hung up on the, well, I posted this last week or whatever, or like you said, here's 2 lines and I repeat it 5 times a day. I mean, that there's, it's got to be a balance of,
Yeah.
like you said, it's got to be credible content. People have to see you in different, and it doesn't really, it's not good just to repurpose the same article. Like you said, you can take stuff that you wrote before and add to it, right? So you're not reinventing the wheel. There are ways that you can go within your own industry to publish, right? You're many different ways there that you can get your information out. I
Mhm.
know for myself, when we look at our content marketing plan, right now we have seven different avenues, really, of different types of information that we put out. It's labor intensive, right? But you have between videos and carousel presentations, and
Yeah.
just looking at your digital assets or articles that you wrote before, or even ideas. Like, start with topics that, different topics around your industry, or you can, before you know it, you have 3 to 5 different things that you could be
Yeah.
publishing and writing and posting about, and they're all different and they're all vital,
Yeah.
and relevant.
And you don't have to do all the things all the time.
Yeah.
It's totally okay. I am not on Facebook, and my business has not been hurt 1 ounce by not being on
I
Facebook.
I got to tell you, girl, I'm all over that, because yes, we do our virtual experiences live on Facebook and YouTube, right? But I got to be honest,
Yeah.
just we post things on a regular post on Facebook and Instagram, but I'm like you, I want to spend my time on focused on one. I mean, for
Yep.
me, this works for me. I want to focus on one, and kind of just work
Yeah.
from there, because for me, there's only so many hours in a day, and I'm like, look,
And it's
I'm
better
already checked out, right?
to do a smaller number of things
Yeah.
really well than a bunch of things not as well. And to that same point, most of these publications, not all, but the lion's share of these publications, if you write an article for Inc., for example, they want it exclusively theirs for 10 to 14 days, but then you can syndicate it, which means you can take that exact same article that you wrote that was published on Inc., and you can publish it to your own blog, to your LinkedIn newsletter, to,
After the
you know,
14 days,
yep,
or during?
after
After the
the
14
14
days.
days. So they usually like it to be exclusive for a period of time, but then you can publish the same thing elsewhere. So now you can have on your blog the entire article with a little notice at the top that says this was originally published on Inc. and a link back,
Nice.
which serves you, now you
Yep.
have more content on your blog if people come to you different ways.
Yep.
And it has that immediate link back, so they can say, huh, is this real? And click on
Yep.
it, and it's like, oh, here it is. Here's her article, and oh, she's written more about this. This is really cool.
Love it. Love it. Oh, my friend. I tell you what, I could talk to you forever, because you are just a wealth of knowledge. And what I love about it is your information. And after we post the replay of this, I want you to go on to the LinkedIn event on the HR Disruptor Summit page, put in your contact information. And as far as I know, you have a course, don't you?
I do.
A workshop?
I have a couple of things. One is the free thing, pitch to published. Every single month
Yes.
I host this, and it's a short training and a Q&A. So that's a great place to sort of start dipping your toes in,
Yes.
get a couple of questions answered. And I do have a course that's launching in October called Pathway to Publication, and it takes you
I
through the
love
whole
it.
process.
I love it. And so you'll be putting that information in. Also, I know that you gave us a free, you gave us something that we can share with our HR Disruptor Summit audience. It is going to be in our virtual package,
Yep.
after event package. So everybody stay tuned for that, because we have lots of goodies that our virtual facilitators are providing for you all. But other than that, my friend, thank you so much. And I just look forward to you coming back, and definitely just so appreciate you and your wealth of knowledge.
My absolute pleasure, Jan. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, everybody.